Hello, it's a beautiful day. Welcome to From Our Correspondents. In this edition, we will tell you stories from fisheries, mining, customs to free SHS. We'll also take you across all the regions and walk along with our correspondents as they report from our various communities. Welcome and stay with me. My name is Richard Kwejenyako. Let's begin from the Central Region, and beginning September this year, the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development will not allow 15% landings of bycatch fish, popularly known as psycho, at the Tema Port. That's a hint from the Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, Mavis Hawa-Kumsin, when she went to share some relief items to fishermen in the Central Region to cushion them in the period of close season. Some fishermen have criticized the Ministry of abolishing psycho at the landing beaches but allowing the industrial trawlers to land such catch. The minister says after banning psycho, she will no longer allow the industrial trawlers to be using illegal fishing net size to catch small pelagic fish. There is more in this report. According to the Fisheries and Aquaculture Minister, Mavis Hawa-Kumsin, one of the remarkable things she has done since she assumed office is banning the illegal transshipment of fish at sea, psycho. But she says the industrial trawlers have taken advantage of the situation and are landing psycho fish at the Tema Port, essentially thwarting the efforts of the ministry. Addressing the fisherfolk at Elmina, the minister, Mavis Hawa-Kumsin, indicated she would deal with the happening and completely eliminate the catching of small pelagic.
No, already there's no psycho. You see, well, the psycho locally is transshipment on sea. But now we don't do transshipment on sea. What they do is, the ministry gave them, that was my predecessor, gave them 15% allowance of bycatch. I stop them from doing cycle, transshipment on the sea, into almost port.
After stopping them from engaging in cycle, they have resorted to landing them at the Tema Port, have uncovered their act, and so I will cancel such arrangement and any other arrangement with respect to cycle. They can also catch the fish and dump them. They know the appropriate net size to use, but it is because of selfishness and greed. We have done gear audit and given a ministerial directive as well. And so when we cancel the 15% bycatch, it will compel them to use the required gears for fishing.
The amount the prescribed one they should use, the amount ministerial directives. It is a son cancel 15% bycatch now. About compelling or mama could use the right gear no ediachi.
Mavis Hawa-Kumsin says her ministry will toughen the sanction regime and make it more difficult for people to violate the fisheries laws.
VMS no be monitor. Ebe hu say wo ye dumping at sea. Ye chi wa obetua $1 million. In fact, ministry no so
our VMS will monitor and cite them for engaging in dumping at sea, and if they are caught, they will pay a fine of $1 million. The ministry has also decided to give subsidies on the buying of the net to enable the fishers buy the required net at a heavily subsidized price. Our leadership is engaging with the fishers to make them get the numbers. After doing all this and you still use a legal fishing net for fishing, the law shall deal with you.
Now yeba. Now we use net as we use The
Ministry of Fisheries is scheduled to open the sea to artisanal fishers on the 1st of August after a month closure of the sea. Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kwejenyako, Cape Coast. Let's head to the Ashanti region now, and there have been concerns over the consumption of root tubers like cassava, yam, cocoyam found at gold mining sites. This is because many believe the heavy metals have the potential to be harmful to human health. But news from scientists at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in the chemistry department would allay your fears. In a study published in 2022 in the International Journal of Environmental Health Research, root tubers were found to be safe for consumption, as the scientists concluded the metals pose less risk. The presence of metal contaminants in agricultural soils and subsequent uptake by food crops can pose serious human health risk. Live FM's Kwesi Debra speaks with the lead scientist, Kwejo Owusu-Boakye of the Department of Chemistry, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology.
The presence of metal contaminants in agricultural soils and subsequent uptake by food crops can pose serious human health risk.
People living there, they farm, they do all these kind of things, and at the end of the day, these food, they eat them. And we felt that these mining activities, once carried out, releases some amount of metals, which some of them are almost all of them are what? Toxic to the environment. Typical example to the soil, which is the zinc.
In this study, the scientists assessed the levels of toxic metals like arsenic, chromium, copper, iron, manganese, nickel, and zinc in soils and some edible root tuber crops from 2 gold mining and 2 non-mining communities in Ghana, and to evaluate the potential human health risk associated with exposure to these metals. The concentrations of the metals in 154 soil and edible root tuber samples were then analyzed.
Or we consider 2 mining community, which is Ashanti and Amansia Central and Konongo, and we chose 2 farming community, which is Akumadan and Ofenso. In all, 154 samples were taken. Out of this 154 samples, 85 samples were food samples, 20 samples being cassava, 15 being cocoyam, 15 being sweet potato, and 35 being samples of yam. And within these areas where these samples were taken, we took soil samples, about 100 grams each, from the area in which we took these food samples. So in all, we took about 69 soil samples. So in all, we had about 154 samples.
The scientists concluded the levels of metals in the root tubers pose a low risk to humans.
We have about 3 ways in which human beings can take in these contaminants. We have through inhalation, then through the dermal skin, then we have the oral. But our concentration was on oral because that is where a lot of people, both children and adults, get in contact with. So we decided to go into this. But at the end of the day, we realized that even though the levels were high, but as to whether it was posing threat to the people within that community, it was not having that threat as at the concentration we have had now. The levels are a bit low as it stands now.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Debra.
That's Kwesi Debra's report from the Ashanti region. We move to the Bono East region now, where a maternal health promotion campaign dubbed Zero Tolerance for Preventable Maternal Deaths and Disabilities has been launched in Kintampo to improve access to quality care for pregnant women. The campaign, which was launched by the Bono East Regional Health Directorate, will seek the public support to remove barriers and unfair treatment that push women and girls with unintended pregnancies to dangerous paths that lead to their untimely death. Deputy Regional Director in charge of clinical care, Helen Agbojo, encouraged women to accept family planning methods to help reduce unintended pregnancies, which leads to unsafe abortions. Anna Sabit has more in this report.
Around 73 million induced abortions take place worldwide each year. Here in Ghana, maternal mortality remains the second most common deaths among women, with more than 1 in 10 maternal deaths resulting from unsafe induced abortions. The situation isn't any different here in the Bono East region, where recorded institutional maternal deaths for the year 2021 stood at 71 per 100,000 live births, with 4.3% of maternal deaths resulting from unsafe abortion. Mrs. Helen Agbojo is the Deputy Regional Director in charge of clinical care at the Ghana Health Services.
Institutional maternal deaths for 2021 was 71 per 100,000 births. That's the raw figure for maternal mortalities. But when it comes to unsafe abortions, we had 4.3% of the total maternal mortalities, and that's a huge one. Even losing one person as a region or one woman as a region is a main issue for us.
As the region takes bold steps towards reducing maternal mortality cases to the barest minimum, a campaign dubbed Zero Tolerance for Maternal Deaths was launched in Kintampo under the theme Stop Preventable Maternal Deaths and Disabilities. The move, according to Mrs. Agbojo, is to engage key stakeholders to sensitize the masses on the need to join hands towards tackling the issue of maternal deaths to save the lives of pregnant women.
We are not only educating them in absentia, but we are also providing services which they can access. Services, there's a lot of ignorance when it comes to some of these care, especially with sexual and reproductive activities. So we are trying to educate people to know that these services are available and it's also close to them, close to their geographical settings. So it doesn't matter which district you find yourself in. Once we have health centers, CHIPS compounds, and even district hospitals, then we want to assure them that these services are available.
Damoma Hima for Tema Port Nanaya Amponsa, who spoke on behalf of the Queen Mothers present at the launch, promised to lead a crusade to help drum the message across the various localities within the area.
Kwanya ahima fo ayiwum yensu ebe fa so ne se yebe kwa koto airtime ewo FM yebe ko yenkura ase enso na yakohunu ohene a wo ho na yaka ne se senti ne baaye ye manu sei enti na na ma ye kwan na ye modawuru na ye nhia emarewa no ene memoa no ne ye ne won enkasa se de be ya on beti de aye kan anya hwe no wo hia ni petanya wanya bi kura no benya 2 and 1 ewum.
Mrs. Agbozo also urged people, especially women, to resort to the various family planning methods which, according to her, would go a long way in preventing maternal deaths across the region.
I also want to talk about the need for us to talk about family planning issues. We know there's a lot of misconceptions out there. People are saying all kinds of negative things about it. But I must say that that's the only way, apart from abstinence, moving away from sex, the next thing to do is to do family planning once you are sexually active. So they should embrace the family planning methods that we have.
Anna Sabit, Joy News, Kintampo.
From the Bono East region, let's head to the Oti region, and residents of Krachi in the Krachi West district of the Oti region have raised concerns about the erratic power supply by the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, NETCO. They lamented that the rampant light-out and low-voltage supplies experience are having a toll on their economic and social lives, as well as puts their security at risk. Fred Kwame Asare has more in this report.
Maxwell resides in Krachi and had been practicing his welding profession for years. His entire family survives on proceeds from his venture, where he provides varied welding services. He tells me his business had taken a downtrend due to an erratic power supply.
Okay, light off no basana.
The frequent light-offs and low-voltage supplies are disturbing. It delays our work output.
We don't have any option.
We have to wait for power to be restored before we continue our work. My car has been in the shop for about 3 months. The welder is unable to complete work on it because of the erratic power supply. Bernice sells at a cold store along the principal street. Her shop serves the southern part of Krachi. She laments how unstable power supply from the Northern Electricity Distribution Company is affecting her business. Our businesses are suffering because of the light-offs. Our stock often gets spoiled due to the frequent light-offs, especially at night. We are pleading with the authorities to resolve the problem to save our businesses. The development has infuriated the residents as the entire Krachi West district continues to suffer the erratic power supply. The residents trooped the streets on Thursday to press home their demand for better services. They grieved the damages caused to their businesses and appliances and urged NETCO to construct a substation in the Oti region, which they believe would help resolve the problem. The residents rounded up the peaceful demonstration at the premises of the Krachi West District Assembly, where a petition was presented for onward submission to the Energy Minister.
We are tired. Our patience has been stretched to the limit, and we can no longer bear the lack of concern for our problems. We feel neglected and think NETCO does not take us seriously. Joel, we therefore demand from a high office a permanent solution to the above-mentioned problems. We demand a regular and efficient electric power supply henceforth. Joel. We also demand establishment of 2 or more substations between Yendi and Krachi to minimize the load on the main line and to help in easy identification of faults anytime there is an outage. We conclude by sounding a word of caution to the workers of NEDCO in Krachi municipality not to embark on any disconnection exercise until stable power supply is restored.
The office of the Krachi West District Chief Executive is not spared from the power challenges. One of the two phases that supply power to his office was off when Joy News visited him. He lamented the development, which also threatens the security of the area, but promised to lobby the relevant authorities to get the problem fixed.
Recently, I think the one time we met on it, Musek met on it, and we said it was a security issue. And the day we met, that day, one of our sub-chiefs was shot, because that day there was power off. It was shot around 7:30 because there was power off. If there was power, that wouldn't have happened. So for me, this has moved beyond social, economic to security issues. I think that NEPCO has to up their games and do the right thing. We have to meet the NEPCO and see how best this thing will be resolved.
The residents have vowed to hit the streets if nothing is done about the erratic power supply within the next 2 weeks. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Krachi.
We head to the Upper West Region, and the outgoing Upper West Region Sector Commander of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Assistant Commissioner Apana Adongo Adagzigina, has lamented over the sector's inability to hit its revenue target last year. He blamed it on the COVID-19 pandemic and last year's August 12 violent flash floods that cut all major roads in the region, resulting in the revenue loss. Assistant Commissioner Apana is, however, optimistic that they will exceed this year's target since they have already bagged 80% of their target. He made the statement at WA during a short ceremony to pull him out of the service. Joy News' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam has more in this report.
A solemn occasion laced with emotions and grim faces. Upper West Region Sector Commander of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Apana Adongo Adagzigina, pulled out of the service after almost 33 years of public service. Happy to retire in a region that he started life in the service as a young recruit and where he learned the rudiments of the service. He has no regrets.
Let me also thank the people of the Upper West Region for having begun my customs career and ending it peacefully. My gratitude.
Assistant Commissioner Apana Adongo Adagzigina lamented about his office's inability to hit their revenue target, blaming it on the COVID-19 pandemic and the violent flash floods that occurred in the region on August 12. He is however hopeful that, considering the systems put in place, they will be able to exceed this year's revenue target.
This year, we have so far collected over 80% of our revenue target. And I'm sure we are exceeding it by the end of the year. One of the factors that affected our revenue mobilization was the floods that washed away portions of the road. It took away most of our imports to other borders, and before we could get them back, time had elapsed. May I take this opportunity to draw your attention that the Kamba Bridge is another disaster waiting to happen. I was there last weekend. I've seen that since my assumption of duty in the region, I realized that there has been much road infrastructure development around Laura and Nandong, and the Kamba Bridge still remains as it was when I used to cross it to Laura Commercial Bank to take my salary.
Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz Bin Sali commended Assistant Commissioner Apana Adongo for the professionalism and his dedication to duty, who to a very large extent has contributed to the relative peace the region is enjoying. Dr. Bin Sali announced the construction of 3 forward bases in the region by the government to ward off terrorists and their elements from the region and the country at large.
Through the Ministry of Defense, government is constructing 3 forward operating bases in the Upper West region. One will be located in Tumu, another in Hamele, and the third one in Jirapa. There are 3 other areas we have identified, and we are in discussions with the Ministry of Defense to ensure that we get these bases in the other 3 areas, i.e. Laura, Sisala West, and Wa West.
Representing the Commissioner of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority was Assistant Commissioner Edmund Omari, who praised the outgoing sector commander for his unblemished records in a service that has lots of trappings, resulting in many being sacked.
Full of unproven allegations, suspicions, and I'm saying this work, the attrition rate is so high. If I say attrition rate, I'm talking of the level, the rate at which people get dismissed. So you find out that you start with your mates, by the time you retire like this, so many of them have fallen by the wayside. So to achieve this feat is just by the grace of God.
The baton of the mantle of leadership now falls on Chief Revenue Officer Depoy Emmanuel Kwesi, a consummate professional who has served as a deputy sector commander for several years. The climax of the occasion saw Assistant Commissioner Apana Adongo Adexegna mounted a bucket of a pickup with his back to the building he has worked in and familiar with for the last 2 years, and now heading to a world that life there is not regimented. Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam.
In our next story, President Akufo-Addo has lauded the contribution of the University of Health and Allied Sciences to augment healthcare delivery in Ghana by producing the requisite human resource base. He detailed that the university dedicated to research and community service delivered tremendously on its mandate, evident in the strides chalked within the last decade. President Akufo-Addo gave the remarks at Ho at the Grand Deba of the 10th anniversary celebration of UHAS, which was the brainchild of the former president, John Evans Atamos.
The University of Health and Allied Sciences was established by an Act of Parliament, Act 828, in December 2011. UHAS, which took off with the matriculation of 154 students in 2012, now has a student population of over 7,600. The university, situated in Ho and Hohwe, has witnessed steady development within the last 10 years, where 11 academic units have been established with over 5,400 health professionals graduating. The university was named first in Ghana in the Times Higher Education Impacts Ranking in 2022 in the SDG 3 category, among other glories. Speaking at the 10th anniversary celebration of UHAS, the Vice-Chancellor, Professor John Kwejo Japon, said the university remains focused on delivering on its mandate.
But along the way, it hasn't been as smooth as I've made it sound. We have had many distractions. Sometimes very worrying, and not just in my term, but in Professor Binka's term. But we have remained focused. We have really remained focused. Because Winston Churchill said, you will never reach your destination if you stop to throw stones at every dog that barks at you. So we will not be perturbed. We will move forward in very focused manner. For that reason, and for the many things that I've said, we know that the University of Health and Allied Sciences is in a very good state today, because we have remained focused and we have avoided mission creep, which the Chairman of Council alluded to, because we believe that specialized universities are essential for national development. This is the University of Health and Allied Sciences, and we shall remain a University of Health and Allied Sciences.
President Akufo-Addo, who was the guest of honor, appreciated the efforts of the management in developing the university solely dedicated to producing health professionals.
They are to be warmly commended for the roles they have played in their lifetime, and for those who have passed on to eternal glory, to be posthumously recognized for their efforts in helping build UMass. I envisage you to be greater, to be leaders in community medicine, and to solve problems in healthcare, making discoveries in alternative medicine, sports and exercise medicine, and medical education. I'm looking forward to hearing, seeing and experiencing all your medical breakthroughs in glaucoma treatment and in cardiothoracic procedure. I want to hear that your products are making a positive impact and building a strong and distinctive healthcare workforce across the globe.
He inspected the progress of work on the second phase of the UHAS development project, where the School of Nursing and Midwifery, Central Administration Block, Duty and Equipment Units are being constructed. The government has also made available 6 million Ghana cedis of counterpart funding for the extension of electricity and water to the campus and the construction of storm and waste drains, among other ancillary services. The president, before his departure, commissioned the Sokode Hall of Residence for the students. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News.
Welcome back from the break. And the Secondary Takoradi Metropolitan Assembly has launched the Operation Paint Your Building campaign. The move is to sensitize and encourage owners of buildings, especially those along ceremonial routes, to paint or repaint the house to give the city a facelift. It is also to address the issue of abandoned, uncompleted and near-collapse structures that pose threats to lives and property. Western Regional Minister and Acting Mayor for the STMA, Kwabena Daku told journalists at the briefing. Correspondent in Natalia Kwansa has the rest of the story.
The twin capital of the Western region, Secondary Takoradi, might be as old as the Takoradi Harbour, which was established in the 1920s. Most buildings within the inner city are very old, with some dating as far back as when the city itself established. Although some have undergone various renovation stages, others have outlived its classiness. The famous market, popularly called Market Circle, believed to be close to a century, has been pulled down to pave way for more modern edifice. For this change to correspond with the entire city, authorities are urging building owners, landlords and occupants to repaint their buildings. Owners with structures which are in very weak state or near collapse have also been encouraged to renovate them or risk being pulled down by the assembly. This, in all, is in efforts to beautify the city. The acting mayor, Kwabena Daku, says the drive to beautify the city is in line with paragraph 2 of the STMA's bylaw on maintenance of premises 2017.
In December last year, the Assembly passed a resolution to enforce this bylaw. So we are here to launch SAFE. To this end, a 3-month sensitization campaign has been planned to create awareness on the Operation Paint Your Building, after which enforcement of the bylaw would be intensified. So you see the process. 6 months ago, we passed a resolution that we want to enforce our own bylaw. Everybody knows it. After 6 months, we are launching it for 3 months so that people can prepare and organize themselves and paint. And then after that, the implementation starts. So clearly, I believe that the Assembly is giving enough room so that nobody can give excuse for not doing the right thing.
A 3-month sensitization campaign has been planned to create awareness on the Operation Paint Your Building, after which enforcement of the bylaw will be intensified. To ensure a smooth implementation of the exercise, the Assembly is in the process of engaging a paint manufacturing company to sell to building owners at a discounted rate. Each community will be made to choose specific colors to encourage uniformity and unique standard. Here is the caretaker.
So after which, the enforcement of the right will be enforced. As part of the awareness campaign, some information and educational materials have been produced to explain and re-emphasize to stakeholders the need to support the exercise. The Sub-Metropolitan District Council will also engage resident associations, landlords, caretakers, leadership of religious groups, and business associations within their jurisdiction to get the message across. Radio, mobile van, and community public address announcements will as well be carried out as part of the sensitization drive. So within these 3 months, we'll be doing a lot of engagement, and we strongly believe that stakeholders will give us the support to get this thing carried through. In as much the campaign is targeted at the entire metropolis, buildings along the roads earmarked for reconstruction this year will be considered during the enforcement in view of the anticipated impact of the road construction work. So we know that we have one major road project that is currently coming up, which is the Sekendi Takrade double road project, which also includes some parts of the road leading to the harbour and some parts of the road from the Animens roundabout to the PTC roundabout. We are also going to do some parts of that same construction from Animens roundabout all the way in front of Akoma Plaza to Pargrant roundabout as well. So these are some of the major road constructions that will be taking place. So they are all being considered in our mix of actions that will be enforcing along. Notwithstanding, property owners within these areas who wish to paint or repaint their building during the enforcement work would not be prevented.
Kobna Otreda Comensa says buildings along roads earmarked for construction like these will, however, be exempted from the exercise. For Joy News, in Athalia Kwanza, Secunde.
Now, a juice manufacturing company, AT Cook Fruits Company Limited, has been inaugurated in Cape Coast. The facility would make use of the region's many fruit production opportunities to produce no preservative fruit juices for the local market and beyond. The facility is expected to help address the high rate of unemployment in the Cape Coast metropolis and the central region as a whole. There is more in this report. Speaking at the inaugural ceremony, the Chief Executive Officer of the factory, Ambrose Thompson Cook, said the company had been set up with the aim of reducing the incidence of unemployment in the region.
Now, I felt I must give something to the world because I suffered and people helped me. So I decided that I must create jobs because jobs are what are needed in this country. So I decided to set up this factory. But there's the problem of capital. And I realized that I could do the same, achieve the same objective without copying the white man blindly. You know, in the white man's country in America, Japan, labor is in short supply and very expensive. So they use sophisticated machinery to do the job. The machine does all the job and very little labor is created. Here in Ghana, we have very cheap labor. So we should exploit our resources. So what I've done is to use cheap labor, the very, very cheap labor, and use simple made in Ghana machinery to produce a product which is superior in quality to any other available in this country.
The managing director of the factory, Nana Bouedou Opon, said the factory also aims to provide a quick market for pineapple producers in the Western, Central and Greater Accra regions. She explained that they had extended patronage of raw materials to the two regions since the Central region's pineapple production capacity was severely inadequate, despite the fact that they would have preferred a larger market in the Central region. Central Regional Minister Justina Marigold-Hassan lauded the company for the effort and promised her outfit will ensure that the Central region's industrialization drive succeeds.
That if you put up a light or a candle and you put it under a shed or under a tree, definitely it's not going to brighten anybody's corner. So you need to put it on the lampshade for everybody to see. So you want those businesses, small businesses, medium ones, to come to light. We want everybody to know this is what we have. And in so doing, people will get to buy your product. And you should also be contributing to the local economy. When we're able to do that, in fact, we're going to have business forum also attached to the program, where businessmen who have already made it going to speak to people and to also educate them on how they should go about their businesses and to inject some kind of skills, technical know-how into it so that they can also be able to make it very big. So by the end of the time, we'll know more businesses coming up. Those who are dying, who need some capital injection. We have other, Exim Bank is also around. We're going to also support them with some kind of finances so that they'll be able to put up their businesses and bring them back to life.
Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kwejenyakon, Cape Coast. We head back to the Western region and hope of safety and comfort returns to some 500 female students of the Huni Valley Senior High School in the Western region who for the past years have been battling living under a dilapidated 1975 girls' dormitory. The girls, who were constantly attacked by town folk in their dormitory at night due to weaker doors and inadequate security, will soon move into a 350-bed girls' dormitory being constructed by the Abosu Goldfields Limited through Goldfields Ghana Foundation. Correspondent Natalia Kwanza visited the school and has more in this report.
Huni Valley Senior High School, established in 1975 as a purely community co-educational institution with 25 students, has grown over the years and now has a student population of 1,589, made up of 562 boys and 1,027 girls. As a community school, it serves many towns and villages in its catchment area, as well as the entire nation. The existing infrastructure facilities in the institution are not able to accommodate the ever-increasing student population. I visited the school during the strike by teachers to see at first hand how students were coping in the absence of their teachers. But one facility that immediately caught my attention was the girls' dormitory. The building could best be described as death trap, with visible cracks all over and weaker doors at almost every house. I was curious and went into the dormitory. All the rooms I visited were congested with poor ventilation and inadequate beds. One thing that came to mind was, should there be an outbreak of disease or the latter-day saint COVID-19, would these girls survive? The expressions on the faces of the girls spoke volumes as they narrated their ordeals.
We've been in this old dormitory for a while now, and we've been facing so many problems, but some of the major problems are the buildings. Some of them leak, so when it rains, we'll be in class, but by the time that we come back, most of our clothes will be wet, or there's because they will be wet and then dumping. It will increase the mildew actions in the clothes, and also the window frames and then doors are broken. So sometimes at night we will be having attacks from armed robbers or the town boys. They just invade in the rooms, and then some of them are being abused and some bad stuff go on in the school. Also is our water system. It used to be very bad.
When we sleep at night, we can't sleep. There is no two is the bed, two the beds are old, so you don't feel comfortable sleeping in it. And the toilet too, some of them are not working. And during at night, because of the bushes around the girls' dormitory, the security personnel don't look around. They don't normally come around the girls'. So we face many problems, like the town people will come here, then they will be running after us.
There is no air spaces. We are combined. There's no spaces around here. We sometimes, due to the heat and all those things, we could not sleep in. So sometimes some of them are even lying on the floor.
Daniel Kobina Edu, an old student of the school and the current headmaster, adds his voice to the students, saying most of the students and some teachers live outside due to the inadequate infrastructure.
In fact, even when you get to the block there, even the ends rooms were supposed to be for their the toilet and the bathhouse are not even there. We had to construct some makeshift places for them to use outside. But with this one, with every facility in there, I think that's a very good thing. One thing with that structure that is also refreshing is that they were able to give us a 2-bedroom apartment, 4 of them on the block, and so that we can house about at least 4 staff members there. Even the headmaster himself is not living on campus. The old bungalow is dilapidated and they need to repair it. And so that is we are looking for more people to come and support.
He, however, was thankful that a light of hope has shined on the girls as the mining giant, through Goldfields Ghana Foundation, is about 85% in completion of an ultramodern dormitory for the girls. He prayed that it would be completed before next semester in September.
In fact, this is the girls' dormitory we have was built in 1975. That was when the school was established. Apart from that, we have not had any girls' dormitory. And with the increasing in the population, now the total girls that we have around is 1,027. And the boys are 562. You know, the girls far outweigh the boys. And so with the Goldfields Ghana Limited coming in to build that girls' dormitory for us, it's a welcoming news. In fact, I'm so excited. We are hoping that they hand it over to us before the Form 2s, the Form 1s will come in. You know, now we have the Form 3s and then the Form 2s in school now. It has been good because of the way the academic calendar was structured. Other than that, for my Form 3s, I only have 76 of them at the boarding house. And so that's why the program has not been compiled. But from next semester, when they come, the Form 1 and Form 2 meet together for the boarding house, it will be a problem. So if they hand it over to me earlier, it will be a welcoming news.
Project Manager, Goldfields Ghana, Roger Adams, says the 6.5 million 2-story building project would be finished with treated double-decker steel beds to prevent bedbugs infestation.
We've actually sourced and ready to even procure double-deck steel bunker beds. So the beds are not going to be wood. I think GS going forward is looking at beds which are steel because of issues of insects and all that. So that's one of the things we are going to put in this facility. If you go in there as well, we've made enough room in terms of the room height so that you could have enough ventilation. And you can have easy space for the double-decker beds and then enough ventilation as well. So that is basically what is it about this 350-bed dormitory. We are about 85% complete. And the remaining works we see are just the finishes. We're looking at all the things we have considered. We've spent barely over 6.5 million cedis so far. But as and when we do the commissioning, I'm sure there are pretty much other things that will come in, which we can pinpoint on our final number. But we've put some quality money in to make sure that all the things we have there are of good standards.
For Joy News, in Athalia, Kwanza, Western Region.
Now, former President John Dramani Mahama has stressed that the National Democratic Congress and the minority in Parliament would not support the $1 billion syndicated loan agreement put before Parliament by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. He detailed that it would be unwise for Ghana to go in for a loan with such unfavorable terms and conditions which could cause harm to the country's economy. There is more in this report by Fred Kwame Asare.
Our position on the $250 million component remains unchanged. As such, unfavorable terms as the $45 million interest payment and total interest payments over $80 million make it too expensive for the economic industry. It is also not programmed in the 2022 budget. Until the terms are renegotiated to make them favorable, the same captured in subsequent budgets, we are unable to support the approval of the $250 million component. On the issue of the $750 million Afri-Exim component, which was programmed in the 2022 budget, in 2022 he provided for international borrowing of $750 million, so it was provided for. We know that since my position was stated, some efforts have gone into renegotiating the cost and terms, which now appear more favorable than when it was originally presented to Parliament. Clarity is, however, yet to be brought on the exact purpose and use of the loan. Beyond the sweeping claim of using it to finance some activities in a few sectors, no breakdown of growth-related sector projects has been provided for which the loan is to be used. I wish to state that in addition to the new and improved terms, the agency will only support the approval of this for specific growth-related projects leading to improvement in the lives of people is presented to us. It is believed that this workshop has sharpened your skills, which have already come in handy in the fight to protect the interests of the people of Ghana and keep this government in check. If we are to navigate these turbulent and extremely difficult periods in our history, we will need an effective and vibrant legislature.
Now, the Tamale SOS Children's Village has trained 20 women in the Sanyarugu municipality on some income-generating activities. The one-year training program included weaving, beading, and catering. The program was to economically empower the women as well as promote gender equality. There is more in this report filed by Martina Bugri.
The program, the Sanyarugu Women's Empowerment Project, was funded by the French Embassy. At a graduation ceremony, the program's director of SOS Children's Village, Benedicta Palori, said the objective of the project was to help reduce gender-based violence, including child marriage, and strengthen the capacity of the women by improving their source of income.
Over the one-year period, all planned activities have been implemented, and I would like to give you highlights of some of them. 20 child rights clubs and 10 community-based child protection committees were formed and trained in 20 schools and communities to serve as the agents of change and to advocate for the rights of children, and also to champion the campaign against gender-based violence in schools and communities. In the area of strengthening the capacity of women for improved sources of income, 20 BSLAs made up of 300 women were trained in various areas, which include BSLA methodology, business planning, marketing, financial literacy, decision-making, etc. These women were sensitized on gender-based violence, family planning, sexual reproductive health, and they had the opportunity to have a gender dialogue with their male counterparts.
The program director said life skills and mentorship training were also offered the 20 women.
Life skills and mentorship trainings were also organized for 20 young persons who were undergoing technical and vocational training. These women and girls were supported to undergo technical and vocational training in weaving, beading, and catering. Our SOS Children's Villages Youth Empowerment Project, however, promotes and provides these young people the opportunity to develop their skills into self-reliance and independence. It is for this reason that we have provided TVET to the 20 young people we have here today. 15 of these young women and girls have been trained in weaving, 3 have been trained in beading, and 2 in catering.
Some of the participants who spoke to Joy News said they were excited to be part of the training.
I thank God for this work I've learned for 1 year, even though it was not easy. But I think patience and obedience is everything when you are learning handwork. 1 year learning of work is never easy. But now, as I'm standing in front of you speaking, I think I've started enjoying it. And whilst I've not finished.
What is like, it's like a dream come true, because you just stand up one day and then you learn, like you benefit from such program, and then the next 6 or 8 months you can call yourself a master.
To our very final story in this edition of From Our Correspondent, in the 2022 Orange Friday Carnival has been launched in Cape Coast. The carnival was shelved for 2 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Organizers of the event, Multimedia's affiliate, Cape Coast-based Cape FM, say this year's will not be part of the Oguafetu Afashe, but will be celebrated as part of the station's 10th anniversary. According to the general manager of Cape FM, Francis Clemens Donko, the event will be used to educate the youth to abstain from all manner of social vices.
Right now, everybody, especially the youth, everybody wants money. They are talking about money. Everybody's talking about it. So they are using any bad means, bad ways to have money. So in this year's Orange Friday, we are using this as an opportunity to educate the youth, to talk to the youth, using our religious bodies, to educate them, to talk to them, so that they will come down with this quick money issues, killing people for rituals and those stuff, so that those things will come down. Because economic hardship is there, but that doesn't give opportunity to people to be doing all sorts of things for money. And so this year we are promoting tourism and culture for development. So we have a lot of tourist sites in the central region, especially in Cape Coast. We have Fort like Fort Williams, Fort Victoria, the Kakum National Park, talking about the Cape Coast Castle, Mina Castle, a lot. So we are using this opportunity for the people in the diaspora coming to, assuming when they come out, they are going to pay something for the tourist sites, and it's going to generate some income for the nation as well, for the tourist side too.
And that's our show in this edition of From Our Correspondent. Many thanks for watching. My name is Richard Kwejunya. I will see you same time next week. Have a good day.